So, what is your relationship to your finances? What is your money identity, if we can say that? I'm asking these questions intentionally. You can write them down if you like. We're going to get back to them a little bit later in this episode, but these questions are opening up the door for us to have this conversation about something that I am honestly really excited about and interested in diving into so much deeper, which is the topic of what happens after you pay off debt that you didn't expect was going to happen. Now, if you listened to the first episode of this new season, you may remember that I was able to pay off a massive amount of debt earlier this year. It's something I feel extremely grateful for and has honestly changed so much for me. And, obviously I felt really good when I was able to do that, but I wasn't expecting the kind of nervous system dysregulation that I felt in the days after paying off that debt. And as a hypnotherapist, I am, perhaps not surprisingly, always very curious when I notice myself feeling a certain way, because I know that that is telling me something. It's telling me something whether I expected it to or not. So today we are going to talk about our money identities, our relationship to wealth and our finances. And I'll caveat all this by saying that I am not a financial advisor. You know this. I am a hypnotherapist, probably your favorite one. And this is just meant to be inspiration. This is not financial advice. I highly encourage you to speak with someone who is licensed in this field in order to give you the kind of advice that's going to make sense for you and your specific situation in that regard. What we are talking about are the belief systems that uphold our experiences of wealth, money, abundance, finances, all of this. So, for a little bit of context, when I got into debt, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember feeling so just not myself. I was really stressed out, and I'm not someone who gets stressed very easily. I was very stressed out. I felt this kind of constriction in my chest. I remember sitting in my own therapy sessions with my therapist talking about how all of this was making me feel. And it wasn't good. It was not good. But the thing about being a human is that we are able to adapt. We are able to evolve. And so what I started doing was doing a ton of inner work around accepting where I was with my finances. I did a ton of work about being okay with having debt, loving myself, accepting myself, the whole 9 yards. And I do believe that this helped me to get past some of that initial anxiety and some of the overwhelm that I was feeling. And so that was something I worked on, honestly, for years. There were so many times in my own hypnotherapy sessions that I was like, okay, we got to focus on this. And what we're focusing on was money. And, in hindsight, it's really interesting because given what I know now, if I were to redo that experience, I would focus less on the debt and more on what I actually wanted. Because if you spent any time in my world, you know that focusing on what you want is powerful and we get to choose what we focus on. And so I think hindsight is 2020. But if I was going to do it again, I wouldn't focus so much on the debt. I would focus more on abundance, of feeling worthy, of being open to receiving. Like those would have been really great avenues for me to look at that probably would have also made me feel okay. But you know what? We live and we learn. So I was going through that for that amount of time. And then when I paid off the debt, I definitely felt relief. I was like, oh my gosh. But it was in that moment that I also realized that I would now need to create an entirely new identity, because all of that inner work that I had done was to be okay being someone with debt. And so suddenly, when I became someone without debt, my entire identity that I had worked really hard those past couple of years to like fortify and build was smashed to smithereens. That wasn't me anymore. I couldn't walk around the way that I had as someone with debt because now I was someone without debt. You see what I mean? And it was wild because I felt the vacuum of it. I felt the space of it. And suddenly I was like really nervous about doing anything with money, because it's almost as though I had wiped the slate clean of that old identity, but I had not created the new identity for myself. So everything, it was like I was a baby. It was like I was an infant. I was like, wait, how do I relate to money? How do I spend? How do I, use this credit card? Like all of these things that were new questions again, entirely new questions. And it felt great to be asking those questions. Like I much prefer asking those questions. But I think that there isn't a lot of discussion around the real shift on a nervous system level and on a subconscious level that happens when you go from who you were to who you have now become. There isn't a lot, from what I've seen, there isn't a lot of discussion about that. And I want to change that. And so that's why I'm going to ask you right now to pause this and write down all of the beliefs that you have about yourself in relation to money. What are all the beliefs that you have about your ability to earn money, to receive money, to spend money, to save money? What are all of the beliefs that you have? Because we always get to choose, right? And sometimes we've chosen an old belief that has served us for a period of time. Like I had a belief when I had that debt that said, you know what? I'm still worthy. I'm still great, even with having debt. Okay, that's wonderful. That's beautiful. Love that for me. But guess what? I'm not that person anymore. So what does the new belief get to be? And if I was still operating with that old belief, there's a pretty good chance I would find ways and reasons to go into debt again. Because the belief that I have is that I'm worthy, I'm great, I'm wonderful, even if I have debt. So the debt is still a part of it. And we don't want to do that. Obviously, we do not want to do that. And so it's important to go in and update that internal operating system, your subconscious beliefs, and say, okay, was this belief system formed when I was, for example, in debt or when I was a child? Was this belief system formed because of the way that I was raised to look at money or to feel about my bank account or whatever? Was this belief system outdated in any way? And I just don't like it anymore and I want to update it. All of those are valid. All of those are perfectly reasonable situations that you might want to go in and say, you know what, let's tweak this a bit. So if you've been through a major life situation, maybe getting a divorce or getting married, maybe losing a loved one or bringing a child into this world, maybe even taking a big trip. Like if you've been through something and you feel that you are different as a result, it's time to go in and look at your beliefs around specifically today money, but honestly, probably around everything. And the thing that I really want to underscore here is that we in the US specifically have normalized debt so much. We've normalized it so much. And I don't think that's bad or good. I actually am not judging that particular state of our society. Like it just is. I think for the purposes of this conversation, we can say, okay, you know what? It just is. That's just kind of what exists right now. But just because society has normalized something doesn't mean that you just have to blindly accept it. It's so hilarious to me because I definitely thought to myself at times when I had that debt, like, oh, I'll be so much more relatable because I've had debt. Like, everyone has it. Won't that make me relatable? Like, what? Arnie, what? No one even knew I had debt. How was I going to be relatable with that? Like, truly, truly, that is what I'm talking about. Like, these thought patterns that we have, these belief systems that we have, sometimes they are just nonsense. They are just gobbledygook. And we owe it to ourselves to polish things up, get rid of what's no longer serving us. And like I mentioned, just because society or your family or your friends or whomever might have had one specific reality for themselves does not mean that that's the reality that you have to create for yourself or support in your behavior or your life choices. Not at all. And sure, it might be uncomfortable to decide that you want something different. It might be scary to decide that the belief systems that you are choosing are really different than the ones that you grew up with or that you see around you. It can feel like a lot, but it doesn't have to. And when you remind yourself exactly why you're choosing these beliefs and let yourself feel the power of those beliefs, let yourself feel the energy that you connect to when you tell yourself whatever it is that you are choosing for your life, I think that kind of makes everyone else's opinions, everyone else's perspectives fall away. So I advise you to make that list. take a very honest and non-judgmental look at what your belief systems are around your money. And this is true regardless of how much money you have in the bank, regardless of whether you have debt or no debt, regardless of whatever your financial responsibilities are. I really think it's important for us to all look at what our beliefs are about money. Because you know what? We live in a world that operates with money. So we're always going to be interacting with it. And now is just as good a time as any other to take a look and see, what do I believe? And then see if you can correlate what some of your beliefs are to your current situation. Because your current beliefs about money, you can look. I know that the beliefs that I had created the situation that I got into with the debt that I had. Now I know looking forward, my beliefs are going to create something else. And so if you look around yourself and say, oh, I have got this belief that maybe isn't the most supportive, and I can see how that would be creating this dynamic that I'm currently in, this situation that I'm experiencing, then you know what? You get to choose. You don't have to feel bad about it. Like there is no room for shame or tearing yourself up. Like self-criticism, not invited. You are looking at this to say, okay, if I want my future to be different, even if my present reality isn't bad, maybe I just want to make things even better. Maybe I want to make things even easier for myself. Maybe I want to make things more joyful for myself in relationship to the way that money comes into my life. Amazing. What gets to be adjusted in your current belief system to do that? And the thing is, you're the only one who knows that answer. And so this does not have to be a rushed thing. This does not have to be a situation that you like just get all the answers overnight. Maybe you will. But I would advise for the next week, 2 weeks, if you want, look at the beliefs that you have around money. Decide if they're working for you. Decide what your desires are, your dreams are for the way that you relate to money, the way that you relate to your finances. And then, as always, start taking the steps to move in that direction. Because it doesn't have to be a big step. It doesn't have to be like a giant leap into this new like experience. Maybe it's just one step and then you say, okay, great. Did that one step. How do I feel? I'm going to take another step. Okay, great. How do I feel? Because the more consistently that you are moving towards what you want, the more often that you allow yourself to feel the energy and the feelings of what you desire, the more you speed up that timeline, the more you shorten the distance between where you are and where you want to be. Because let me tell you, where you want to be with money is not a number. And this is why I'm going to say that. Where you want to be is not a number. Where you want to be is a feeling. Maybe you want to feel safe. Maybe you want to feel confident. Maybe you want to feel at ease. Maybe you want to feel free. Those are feelings. And yes, I'm not going to lie. Having a certain number in the bank is probably going to help you feel that way. But what if you allowed yourself to feel that way before you got to that number? What if you allowed yourself to feel good, to feel at ease, to feel confident, to feel safe as you are in the process? What if you allowed yourself to start feeling the way you want to feel right now? There's literally nothing stopping you except yourself. And I say that with love because let me tell you, I get it. I do. I have done it myself. But the thing that I so strongly believe, and this is why probably I am a hypnotherapist and believe so strongly in the work that I do as well, is that if you can feel what you want to feel now, anything that you want is possible. Everything that you want is possible. Even beyond everything that you could ever dream of is possible. But it doesn't start by keeping that thing like at an arm's distance. It doesn't start by keeping the feeling far away from you. It starts by bringing the feeling in. And here's why. Because you are going to be creating new neural pathways that say, oh, it's safe for me to feel confident. It's easy for me to feel safe. It's easy for me to feel at ease. You're going to start creating those new neural pathways. And I always say this, a neural pathway does not just zing, bada bing, bada boom, show up like a 4-lane highway, right? It starts like a path. And then you start widening the path and deepening it and making it more, stable and secure and clearing it. And that is the way that our neural pathways are built. And so consistency is key. So if you want to change the way that you are feeling about your financial situation, start with feeling how you want to feel today. Even if it's only for 5 minutes, I mean, tomorrow you can feel that way you want to feel for 6 minutes. That's what I'm saying. Like, it can go as fast or slow as you want, as fast or slow as feels safe and doable for you. But the more you practice this new feeling, the more it becomes second nature, the better you feel. And before you realize it, you've gotten to that number, you've gotten to that financial situation, but you realize that while it's amazing and wonderful and you're so happy to have that, you allowed yourself to feel good before you got there. You didn't have to suffer to get there. You didn't have to be in pain for years and years in order to make this change. That's what I want for you. I'm pretty sure if you're still here, that's what you want for yourself. So on that note, go make a list, go write down those beliefs, and then go write down what you would rather believe instead, and start taking your steps step by step to feeling the way that you want to feel. Sound good? Okay, wonderful. Let me know how this is landing for you. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad we're back in business, baby, with this podcast. Makes me so happy. Leave a 5-star review. You can leave a comment or DM me on Instagram. I love to know what you think of the episodes. So on that note, take good care of yourself. Stay hydrated. Go feel good. And I'll see you back here next time. Bye.